With Nikita Khrushchev as premier of the Soviet Union, the United States faced an extremely determined and aggressive enemy. Khrushchev was obsessed with beating the United States in any way possible, militarily, culturally, economically. He repeatedly threatened the United States on the international stage, and it reheated tensions in the Cold War.
With the election of President John F. Kennedy in 1960, some government officials began to push for a need to revision of the policy of brinkmanship. Advancements in weapons technology since the development of the idea of mutually assured destruction helped to lead to the Kennedy Doctrine. The Kennedy administration began to develop what is known as flexible response, which allowed the United States military several options for dealing with Soviet threats, rather than a single all-or-nothing policy of nuclear retaliation. This new policy directed the United States response to a non-nuclear Soviet strike, and would allow the United States to reply in kind. The key to this is to have a conventional military buildup. With this conventional military buildup, the United States can now stop Soviet aggression via conventional weapons. While under the policy of mutually assured destruction, the United States would respond with a full-out nuclear war. Under flexible response, only as a last resort would the United States respond with an all-out nuclear attack. Another aspect of the Kennedy Doctrine was the development of an elite special military force called the Green Berets. Kennedy would use these Green Berets for covert operations. This would allow the United States to take out key targets without a full military deployment, and many times, these missions would be taken care of without anyone knowing about it.
The first crisis of the Kennedy administration was the Bay of Pigs invasion. In 1959, communist rebel Fidel Castro seizes control of the nation of Cuba, only 90 miles off the coast of Florida. As a communist, Castro relied heavily on the Soviet Union for aid, which made Cuba a major threat right off the coast of the United States. The United States cut off diplomatic relations with Cuba, and thousands of Cuban exiles fled to the United States for liberty. In 1961, JFK approves a plan to invade Cuba with CIA-trained Cuban exiles. The invasion was a plan that was put into place during the Eisenhower administration, following the model used by the CIA in Guatemala. The Cuban exiles would be armed and trained by the Central Intelligence Agency, and then backed up with U.S. military support. The Cuban exiles would invade the island, take out any resistance, and then re-establish control and topple Fidel Castro. However, due to a series of blunders, the plan fails miserably as everything breaks down and the exiles are killed or captured. The Bay of Pigs invasion is a tremendous failure for the United States, and Kennedy publicly accepts responsibility for that failure. As a public defeat for the United States, the Bay of Pigs invasion bolstered the Soviet cause to defend Cuba from the United States. The failed Bay of Pigs invasion is without a doubt the biggest failure of the Kennedy presidency.
Khrushchev decides to push the United States hard after the American blunder at the Bay of Pigs. Following the invasion, JFK and Khrushchev meet in Vienna, Austria. At this meeting, Khrushchev aggressively tests Kennedy's youth and inexperience. He threatened to blockade West Berlin, and JFK refused to back down. All of this leads to the divide in Berlin and the creation of the Berlin Wall. Kennedy had begun to show his determination to contain communism. On a TV address, JFK defiantly declared the U.S. would not be driven from West Berlin.
But we must also be ready to resist with force if force is used upon us. Either alone would fail. Together they can serve the cause of freedom and peace.
Kennedy and the United States had the advantages of a superior nuclear weapon arsenal, as well as the moral right in the eyes of the world. On August 13th of 1961, under darkness, Khrushchev erected the Berlin Wall. This concrete wall was meant to keep East Berliners from escaping to West Berlin. Since this wall was erected in the middle of a city, it split families apart. This wall was so indiscriminately placed that sometimes it went directly through buildings, and East Berliners would brick up the windows of these buildings in order to create a solid wall. Over the years that the wall divided Berlin, many people took desperate measures to escape East Berlin. One group of defectors even escaped using a hot air balloon to cross over the wall. Nearly 2 years after the erection of the Berlin Wall, President Kennedy traveled to West Berlin for a state visit.
There are many people in the world who really don't understand, or say they don't, what is the great issue between the free world and the communist world.
Kennedy had learned his lesson from the Vienna Conference, as well as his mishandling of the Bay of Pigs invasion, and he knew it was time to get more aggressive when dealing with the Soviets. During the speech, he wanted to make a statement about the evils of communism.
Freedom has many difficulties, and democracy is not perfect. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in, to prevent them from leaving us.
In one of the most memorable speeches of his presidency, Kennedy expressed in no uncertain terms American solidarity with those living in the divided city.
Freedom is indivisible, and when one man is enslaved, All are not free. All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
With these words, JFK defiantly slams the wall as an ugly symbol of communist oppression against freedom everywhere. When John F. Kennedy entered office, he was young and inexperienced. In his first meeting with Khrushchev, he was weak and showed his vulnerability, and he made a poor decision with the Bay of Pigs invasion. But Kennedy used these disappointments as a way to learn and improve for the future. He had changed his outlook on the Cold War and realized he needed to become more aggressive with Khrushchev. The lessons he learned during these events will guide him through an event that led us within moments of World War III.